Times were tough, so I sold my soul. And I don't think I'll ever regain control. Devil looked me in the eye, now I look the other way. What else could I do? I just stood at the doorway and knew I'd rather be drunk with you. I'd rather be drunk.
Hey Internet, Dracofunk here, and welcome back to my Reusable Space program. This is Season 2, Episode 16. And today, we are about to send some stuff to Ike. But before we do that, like the ship's all ready to go, but before we do that, I want to send these two little RCS pugs, which should be named Pugs. I'm trying to think of something that pug could stand for, but I'm just going to leave it up to your imagination. Hey, if you can think of something that an RCS tug could be named for pug, let me know. Anyway, the jet engines are about out of fuel. There they go. Now, I made a mistake here. Originally, the pug design... Basically what I did, I wanted to launch two at the same time. So I took the one pug craft and I added another one, which I just basically built on the bottom. And I did not realize the second one is missing a battery. So it's not exactly correct. And I did not notice this. Honestly, I don't think I noticed it until after this episode, until everything was at Ike. But that's okay. I'm not going to fix it. One of them is just going to have one less battery and be a little bit shorter. But now that that is in orbit, I'm still going to constantly be renaming that. I don't remember why I keep switching back. The main reason I switched back is I realized it would just be more efficient to have the booster itself do the rendezvous. There's still 400 or so Delta V left on that booster, and that's should be enough to do this little rendezvous. So we're only looking at a 68 Delta V burn to do the Hohmann transfer, and something similar, a little bit more, 73 to do the match velocities. But we still have just under 300 Delta V, so that's enough. These little RCS tugs really don't weigh that much. The only concern I have is at this point, I am collecting quite a few boosters in orbit of Kerbin, and I am going to have to, at some point in time, deorbit all of them and land them, as I'm sure the stock of boosters to launch new things into orbit is probably getting very low. And I had originally thought I would put these on the front of the tanker, but since they need to be attached to the fuel tanks anyway, I think I might just go ahead and attach them there. And then I can fly this whole thing to Ike. Oh, I do attach it to the front. I really don't know why I did that. I probably should have just attached it to the back. I'm just eyeballing everything and using the nav ball. The good news is these RCS tugs are actually very maneuverable because they're so small. I'm just going to go ahead and fill that up for now. So it would have made a lot more sense to attach it. And right there you can really see that it is missing one of the battery packs that would make this a little bit longer. The other one uses the dome coupler. I probably could have done away with that because originally I didn't have a fairing. So next time I launch this configuration, I'll probably go in and fix that so we don't have that problem. And the tanker is rotating. It's hard. This is sped up 4 times, so it's more obvious than it was at the time I was doing this. But I'm still able to get it docked. And this is where I realize that it looks kind of off. Alright, and the Ares craft undocks. And it's actually going to fly over and dock to that booster and borrow the rest of, get some fuel from it. Because this is the space tractor, the Ares craft, has been doing a lot of in-system flying, and its delta V is actually kind of low. So it'll go over there and basically refuel off of this close-in booster since it's right there. It is, if there is fuel left in the booster, I will do some, I can use it to deorbit, but in reality, it really, the RCS is enough to get it to deorbit into the atmosphere, and I really don't need to do any maneuvering after that. And hey, we're flying right over the Kerbal Space Center right now. There's a brief view. There it is. And because this is a reusable space program, every ounce of fuel that any of the spacecraft can get is helpful. Because none of, well, I shouldn't say none of, most of these craft never actually go back to Kerbin. So the only way I can refuel them is to either bring fuel up or bring fuel that I've mined from the MUN to them. And especially operations like that are especially important in places like Duna, where this craft is headed, because it's so far away. And we're doing our Duna burn, or our main burn to get to Duna right now. And everything that is on this craft, save for one of the RCS tugs, is inbound for the moon of Duna, Ike, for the space station there. And this will help facilitate mining operations on Ike to keep the Duna system fueled. And with the gravity being so low on Ike and also around Duna, it will actually be a more efficient operation than what's in the system of Kerbin. Now, I say system when this is all in the same star system, but I mean the planetary/moon system. And right now, I'm just trying to get a closer approach just by using RCS. And the earlier you do it, the cheaper it is. Like what I can do with just like a few taps of the RCS would take hundreds of Delta V in system. And that's due to the Oberth effect. Unfortunately, I cannot adequately explain the Oberth effect, but minute movements now will have big changes on the encounter later. So the further out you can do your maneuvers, the more effect they will have. Now, I set up a sphere of influence change when I have my Duna encounter, but I also set up a manual alarm that is just a few minutes before that sphere of influence change. And that's because I've been having a weird glitch where the sphere of influence change goes away as I get closer. As you can see right there, it jumped to a year. So if I did not have that manual alarm there, I would have flown right by my encounter and missed it. Now, once we drop out of time warp, the regular Duna encounter popped back up. So I'm really not sure what's causing that problem. And now I should have looked closer to see what my orbit coming in would be, because I was really, really, really off. I'm just trying to set up and maneuver to fix that. And it's going to take a lot of Delta V. We're like looking at a 600 Delta V burn. I'm not really super concerned about that because we have several hundred Delta V. And right now I'm actually transferring fuel around because of where the fuel is. We actually have more Delta V than it says, even though like right now as we're burning and using fuel, my Delta V is going up because I'm transferring fuel back into some of these other tanks, because I did not have the crossfeed enabled for those bottom tanks, so it wasn't taking into account that I actually had more fuel there. So now we're over 3,000 Delta V, and I really could be doing some more efficient maneuvers, but I didn't. I'm just trying to transfer the remaining fuel from those tanks out just to get everything as even as possible. Because the other thing is that as you transfer fuel around, you want to make sure that you're not creating an imbalance in your spacecraft. So you might see me actually transferring stuff from one tank to another, just to transfer it back, just simply so that the craft is balanced and even. And I'm back up to like 3,700 Delta V. And now that I've circularized my orbit, it's still a very large orbit, but I'm going to do a plane alignment with Ike, because instead of going in and orbiting getting a closer orbit in the Duna, I'm just going to transfer to Ike from out here. And it's only a cost of 54 Delta V to get an Ike encounter. And then I'll have to do some maneuvers actually once we're captured into Ike to rendezvous with the station. But again, over 3,000 Delta V. And as you can see, something did not go right. Somehow, I'm not really certain, but I lost or missed my Ike encounter. But that's okay. So I end up actually going into Duna orbit, and I'll just try again. Thankfully, I do have all that extra Delta V. It doesn't take much more, but that is a little bit frustrating, because if I was in more of a fuel crunch, that's still a couple hundred Delta V that I just basically lost. And I'm really not sure what's causing. It's probably similar, related to the bug that causes my encounter to be lost from when I'm doing a transfer from Kerbin to Duna. And now I'm just circularizing my orbit. Now I'm in a high orbit of Ike. I'm going to set my target as Ike Station. I believe this is Atlantis Station. I'm running out of space shuttles, though, to name my space stations after. So I'm really not sure what I should name, or what naming convention I should use for the space stations that come after, because there was only 6 shuttles: Enterprise, Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour. So one more, and then I can name it Endeavour. I could name the next one the Buran, after the Soviet space shuttle. And then there are several fictional space shuttles I could also name it after. The first one that comes to mind is Moonraker from James Bond. But I do not remember the name of... I can't remember the name of any of the other space shuttles from various movies and TV shows. I guess there was the one from Buck Rogers. It was Ranger 3, I believe. But it wasn't quite a space shuttle. It was definitely based on the space shuttle, but it was not... It really wasn't what the space shuttle ended up looking like. Only kind of. And I'm speaking of the early, what was it, 70s or 80s Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Which I really enjoyed that show up until the second season, when they kind of redid everything and really kind of messed it up. Oh, but here we are. We've made it to Ike Station. And my initial thought is to go ahead and move these RCS tugs to the back, because I need to separate these tanks and add them to the station. I'm just trying to do a little bit of manual docking. And there we have it. And at this point, I try and undock that tank, and it does not undock. So I have a stuck docking port. which I haven't really had any problems with that up until this season. So I'm going to try and I'm going to move the other RCS tug to that tank. However, at this point, because I know I'm going to have to close out the game and use the KML application to fix the docking ports. I'm going to go ahead and just dock the tanker to that free docking port on the side of the station. Now, it is my intention to bring 2 more of these orange tanks and then the RCS/orange tank to the Duna system to attach to the tanker eventually. But for the most part, the tanker can still fulfill its mission just in a slightly lower capacity. And you see right here, I'm just trying any of the docking ports to see if any of them will undock. And since they won't, we're going to have to stop here, and we will finish reconstructing the space station in the next episode. But hey, thanks for watching this video and listening to me ramble on about various things, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.